Welcome back. We're going to be going through graphing of quadratic relations using different methods than what we've done. Ultimately, this is helping you towards interpreting and solving questions related to quadratic relations. Just a quick review of what you should have learned in the previous lesson. To solve this, we can solve it using factoring. There is no common factor, but we can take the 4 times the 39. 4 times 39 is going to be 156. I encourage you to pause the video, by the way, at this point to try and test your skills. The numbers that we're going to be looking for are 3, 4, 6, 6, and 26. Of course, I've been doing this a long time, so I know I've got a little bit more experience with doing this. We take both these numbers, divide by 4, divide by 4. If I was in your situation, I'd probably be doing a lot more factors. And so this says that this is going to reduce into minus 3 over 2, and this is going to become minus 13 over 2. Ultimately, this will convert into 2x minus 3, and 2x minus 13 is equal to 0. And ultimately, we really don't have to do much work because our answers are right here. X is equal to minus 3 over 2, and x is equal to minus 13 over 2. And we could also write those as decimals. X is equal to minus 1.5. X is equal to minus 6.5. Moving on, we still have quite a bit of review to do, but we're graphing using the roots in this lesson. And the goal of this lesson is to sketch a quadratic relation whose form is in the standard form ax squared plus bx using a variety of methods. Well, this one, in this lesson specifically, we're using the intercepts and the axis symmetry. We have in some respects done it already by transformations, and if we're good and I've got time, I will show you how to confirm your answer using technology. I've met my learning goals if I can sketch and confirm these quadratic equations here. They should technically have y's over here instead of zeros or numbers. Just to recap, this is the standard form, and one of the important properties is that C is the y-intercept. We're going to be using a factored form to graph, and that the h value of the vertex, or axis symmetry, is the midpoint of these roots. This is a recap of what the properties look like from Unit 2. These are the x-intercepts, where they cross over the x-axis. This is the y-intercept, where the parabola crosses the y-axis. And this is the vertex, which is the maximum or minimum. And the axis symmetry crosses through and is the x value of that vertex. It's going to be important to understand that. To begin, we're going to start with this question here, which is graph using the, in this case, x-intercept. I've created a table. If you're more of the visual type and you like organization, this could be useful. Ultimately, we want to find when this equation is equal to 0 to find the x-intercepts. That's when y equals 0. That's why we substitute in y, and now we're going to solve. We're going to factor out a negative 2. Bracket x squared minus 8x plus 12. We're going to factor this trinomial. 0 is equal to minus 2 bracket x minus two numbers which multiply to 12 and add to 8 are minus 6 and minus 2. This is true when these are equal to 0, which is when x is equal to 6 and x is equal to 2. We're going to fill that in our chart, 2 and 6. Our axis symmetry is going to be the midpoint of those. X is equal to 6 plus 2 divided by 2. That's equal to 8 divided by 2, which is 4. So x is equal to 4. And we can update our vertex from this. There's 4. We do not know what our y value is. We can also add in this y-intercept coming straight from the last number in the standard form, minus 24. So here's what we don't know yet. We don't know the y value of the vertex, but we can find it by substituting x equals 4 back into this equation or this equation. It doesn't matter which one, and you can verify that if you'd like. Y equals, I'm going to use this one because I don't have a calculator on me right now, minus 2, 4 minus 6, 4 minus 2. That's going to become minus 2, and that's going to be positive 2, which is minus 4, which is going to turn this into 16. So right now, this tells me that my vertex is going to be 416. So here's what I can create. My y-intercept is all the way down here at minus 24. My roots are at 2 and 6. I've got a vertex which is at 416. And now I just have to try my best to make a parabola that goes through all those key characteristics or key points. I got my x-intercepts, my y-intercept, and my vertex listed. It's a very rough sketch, and I hope that you have more luck than me using a Mobi. You should pause the video at this point and try and do this one on your own. It's very similar to what we already started with in the review. So we want to start by factoring this. 0 is equal to, that's because y equals 0 for the x-intercepts. There is no number which can factor out of this. Oh no. So we need to multiply 4 by the 39. We get 156. And the two numbers from what I can remember were 6 and 26, and both minuses. So this factored, if I remember correctly, divide by 4 into x. Oh, actually, I need to make sure I'm very careful with what I write. That's minus 3 over 2. This is minus 13 over 2. Technically, I don't even need to write factored form. I already know what my answers are. They're right here. But for completion's sake, if you wanted to see that, we'd put the 4 here from the a, x minus 3 over 2, and x minus 13 over 2. And so the answers for my roots are going to be x is equal to the opposite values of these, or sorry, the opposite, what's it called? They're going to be the positives. 3 over 2, x is equal to 1.5, x is equal to 13 over 2, x is equal to 6.5. So here's what I know right now, and here's what I can fill in. I can fill in 1.5 and 6.5 for my roots. My axis symmetry I'm going to have to calculate. I do know that the y-intercept is 39, coming straight from this last value in the equation, relation. The axis symmetry is 1.5 plus 6.5 divided by 2. That's going to be 7. That's going to be 8. It's going to be 4. So x is equal to 4. And that also tells me the vertex has an x value of 4. And now what I need to do is substitute this 4 back into either equation. And I should be able to find out what my y value is, or h value, whatever it is that it relates to. 4 squared minus 32 times 4 plus 39, and this is where I'm going to get my calculator. And magic arrives. Y is equal to minus 25. Of course, if you're good, you've been able to put that all into your calculator and get the same thing as what I've got. So now it's time to create a rough sketch. Here's what I'm going to start with. I know that my y-intercept is 39. I know that my intercepts are 1.5 and 6.5. I also know that this thing opens upwards. That's the only way that's going to go through all three of these points, which also confirms that this is positive. My vertex is down here at 4 minus 25 as a coordinate. And so, to create a rough sketch, got my arrows to show that it continues on forever. And there we have a parabola graphed with its key features, all starting from factoring it to get the zeros, to then find the axis symmetry, to find the y value of the vertex, and all along the y-intercept comes from the original equation. Moving on to the last question, we want to create a rough sketch of the rocket's path. The height of a rocket is modeled by this equation, and we have to find, well, we have to create a rough sketch. Let's do that. Oh man, there's no 2 which can factor out, but what I do know is that ultimately my goal is to find out when it's at 0. So I'm going to factor the negative 2t squared minus 33t plus 45. That's when 0 is equal to 2t squared minus 33t plus 45. If you don't take out the negative, things are going to become complicated, and you're probably going to make a mistake. Even I would too. 2 times 45 is 90. Two numbers which multiply to 90 and add to minus 33 are minus 3 and minus 30. Okay, we divide those by 2, divide by 2. Our numbers that we're looking for are minus 1.5 and minus 15. Or, if you're really good, you can already tell me that the roots are t is equal to the positives of these, or the switched signs. 1.5 and t is equal to 15. I can now find the axis symmetry by adding these two numbers together and dividing by 2. T is equal to, so axes of sim, t is equal to 1.5 plus 15 divided by 2, and that would equal to 8.25. This is not going to be nice. I'm going to be taking this and putting it back into this equation, or this equation, doesn't matter which, and solving using a calculator. Minus 2, and I want to make sure I put h equals minus 2 times 8.25 squared plus 33 times 8.25 bracket minus 45. And here's where I use my magic. Which is a calculator, I find out that h is equal to minus 91.125. So here's what I know. I can create a rough sketch. I know that my y-intercept is minus 45. That's down here. I know that my roots are at 1.5 and 15. 1.5, that's 15. And I know that my vertex is going to be 8.25 and 91.125 all the way up here. 8.125 and 91.125. And so, to create a rough sketch, I've got the key characteristics here. Ooh, it's a horrible graph. Yeah, let's see if you guys can do better with a Mobi. That is it for these lessons. However, here's your homework. Before we go to the homework, I did promise I was going to show you something else before we got to it, which is how to confirm your answer. So I'm going to show you something pretty cool. This here is called Desmos.com, and it's a very versatile graphing program. I can put in the equation here, y equals, I use y and x because that's what the defaults of this program are. X exponent 2 plus 33x minus 45. And what I should hopefully be able to confirm is that my graph is going to look like this. So here's what Desmos shows. I can click on some of the key points. And 8.25, 91.125 is what I got for my vertex. 1.5 and 0 is a coordinate of one of the x intercepts, and the other intercept is 15, 0. Great. Everything's working out so far so good. And my y-intercept is 0.45. You can do the exact same thing to confirm all your answers. You do not need a textbook for this. And this is also a very versatile app, like I said before. So it works on Apple's iPhone, the iOS. It also works on a computer, as you can see in a Chrome browser. It can work on Android, and it could also work on Android through your Chrome browser. Like I said, very versatile, easy to use. You use Shift 6 to get to an exponent, so Shift 6 2, or you can also use the shortcuts down here. I hope you found this to be informative. I use Desmos.com on a regular basis to confirm my graphs and answers. It also allows you to see things visually. Thanks for watching. Math is not a spectator sport, and as I always say before, practice makes perfect. Try and do these questions. It will test whether or not you got what was going on. Thanks for watching.